that hot mess that they air in the mornings called The View had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections. Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away.
Whoopi kicked off the segment like she always does, tossing her head back with that smug grin, making sure her voice dominated the room. But this time, something felt different. The crowd wasn't cheering like before, and the cameras lingered on her face as if waiting for her to crack. The moment Charlie Kirk walked on set, it was like someone kicked the door open and dragged in the truth with full force. He didn't follow their script, didn't play nice, and definitely wasn't there to be silenced. He came ready to expose everything. Each line Charlie delivered cut straight through the cushy bubble. The View hides behind, and Whoopi? She looked shocked, as if the nation had finally called her out live and without warning, and truthfully, she had it coming. This wasn't about one flub, one show, or a single misstep. It was the payoff for years of arrogant speeches, tone-deaf takes, and unchecked preaching that finally met a wall of resistance.
CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a
Charlie didn't hold back for even a second. He called out The View for mocking young conservatives, belittling people of faith, and turning every debate into a personal insult. Whoopi tried to cut in, but it was too late. Her silence said more than her words ever could. Then came the bombshell Megyn Kelly entered the fray, not as support, but as a second strike Whoopi never anticipated. She was sharp, ruthless, and methodical. While Charlie hit hard, Megyn made sure the hits kept stinging. Megyn wasn't there to debate, she came to reveal the truth. With a calm, confident tone and receipts in hand, she peeled away every layer of Whoopi's media image for the world to see. And the worst part, Whoopi had no defense ready. What began as a regular segment turned into a complete takedown of Whoopi's public persona, and nobody came to her rescue. Not Joy, not Sunny, not even the frantic producers who usually cut to break when things go sideways. It was as if they wanted the collapse to play out. Breakdown doesn't even begin to describe it. Whoopi's face, once so bold and commanding, lost all color. Her eyes darted nervously, her hands shook while clinging to cue cards that now felt useless. The ruler of daytime TV looked like a lost guest, confused and cornered. Megyn pulled out the clips, those viral moments Whoopi hoped the world had moved on from. She reminded everyone of the wild claims, the one-sided outrage, and the grandstanding that couldn't survive even the simplest truths.
Disgusting. She's Anna Navarro in your wildest imagination. You could never solo host a show. You will only ever make it as part of an ensemble, and you could never hope to achieve the success that Tucker Carlson has. So you can sit in your little cheap seats all day long and enjoy your little negative henpecking, but your careers are going nowhere, and Tucker is about to dominate in whatever space he can.
The reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit.
It was savage, and it was absolutely deliberate. Then Charlie delivered the knockout blow. You don't speak for America, Whoopi. You speak for a dying echo chamber that fears the truth. Instantly, the energy in the room vanished. Whoopi froze, her grip on control slipping right through her fingers. The live audience was caught off guard. Some gave nervous claps. Others sat completely stunned. This wasn't just a heated exchange, it was a long-awaited reckoning that finally erupted on live television. Even before the segment ended, social media was on fire. Clips were already everywhere, hashtags blew up, and Whoopi's name lit up every screen, not as a pioneer, but as a warning sign. The fallout was swift, widespread, and completely unmissable. The worst part? Whoopi had nothing to fall back on. No clever quip, no rehearsed comeback, nothing to salvage the moment. Her brand was built on always owning the last word. But this time, silence swallowed her whole. Megyn didn't need to yell. She calmly laid out contradiction after contradiction, exposing lie after lie. She wasn't upset, she was meticulous, like a seasoned attorney delivering a closing argument as the world watched Whoopi unravel. Charlie circled back to The View's endless hypocrisy, the constant jabs at conservative youth, the mockery of dissenting voices, the arrogance of thinking their opinions were above criticism, and Whoopi being the loudest leader of that narrative. That sealed the downfall. Whoopi tried shifting the topic, but no one followed her lead. Not the audience, not the guests, not even her co-hosts, who sat in uneasy silence, clearly witnessing a live implosion. And instead of cutting away, the camera zoomed in. This wasn't just another dramatic TV segment. This was a breakdown in real time, the kind that doesn't fade away, it rewrites everything.
And there was this what do you call it? This Turning Points conference with all the smoke. What are they smoking something down there? Or it's like whatever. Anyway, they were out there. They were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs.
Whoa, the drama. Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA, threatened to sue The View. And let me tell you, the nonsense that ensued is really
The woman who used to silence entire rooms with a single glare now sat powerless, struggling to breathe through the same fire she had spent years lighting beneath others. The control she once commanded had completely vanished. When the segment ended, there was no cheering, just a heavy, uncomfortable silence, as if the show itself finally realized what the world already suspected. The throne had crumbled, and the crown shattered beyond repair. Charlie Kirk didn't leave with a mic drop, he left with a knowing smirk that said it all. Mission accomplished. He didn't need to boast. The footage spoke volumes, and the internet was already hailing him as the man who pulled back the curtain on a crumbling empire. And Megyn Kelly, she didn't stick around to bask in the fallout. She calmly gathered her notes, glanced around the wreckage, and exited like a judge after passing sentence. It wasn't drama, it was a declaration. Whoopi sat longer than usual, stunned, like she'd been struck by a wave of truth she never imagined would hit her. Her trademark comebacks were gone, not even a fake laugh or snide comment made it out. That silence, it echoed louder than any speech she ever gave. For years, The View had shielded her, bathing her in applause and approval, no matter how off base her takes were. But now, the safety net had torn wide open, and she dropped through it for the entire world to witness. Producers rushed to spin it, calling the on-air disaster a spirited conversation, but no one was fooled. You can't throw glitter on a collapse and call it a celebration. Online, people unleashed a flood of receipts, clip after clip of Whoopi's worst takes, smug dismissals, and bold statements that didn't just age poorly, they rotted on arrival. This wasn't a one-off embarrassment, it was a long overdue reckoning, and what made the moment hit even harder? Charlie and Megyn weren't even part of the usual cast, they were outsiders. Yet somehow, in a single segment, they accomplished what no insider ever could: shatter the illusion once and for all.
Asked him about that. They asked him about that moment. Watch this, South 36.
The vice president was here. I asked her if she would have done something differently than your administration over the past 4 years. And because of all the successes that your administration had, I think her response was, there is not a thing that comes to mind. Now, that answer was weaponized against her. And there has been some reporting that you...
This wasn't just a rough day for PR, it was a full-blown cultural earthquake. A clear warning to every celebrity who thinks they can skate by on attitude, twist the facts, mock the public, and still expect cheers just for showing up. Her loyal defenders rushed online to do damage control, but the fallout was too massive to fix with hashtags or shallow statements. Even longtime fans started speaking out, admitting, something's different and it's not good. People who used to watch her for sharp humor were now tuning in to witness the unraveling. The View didn't feel like a throne room anymore. It felt like a televised crime scene. While Whoopi likely sat stunned in her dressing room, trying to piece together when the decline began, the answer was echoing across every platform. This collapse was years in the making. Charlie had already dropped a full podcast episode within hours, walking through every blow step by step, calling it one of the rawest truth checks TV has ever seen. And Megyn, her YouTube reaction was surgical calm, precise, and unforgiving. She declared, "You can't hide behind daytime charm forever. Eventually, the real world storms in, and today, it didn't knock, it kicked the whole door down." Her delivery was ice cold, but the impact? Shattering. Talk show hosts everywhere were paying close attention, and you can be sure every celebrity publicist fired off warning emails that read, "This is what happens when you stop being cautious." Because the truth is, Whoopi had been on autopilot unchallenged, unchecked, and completely insulated. That comfort made the downfall even more devastating, especially when every second was captured, replayed, and dissected by millions. This wasn't just an embarrassment, it was a power shift. For the first time in years, Whoopi wasn't running the show, she was the show. And it was spiraling fast. Her trophies and viral moments couldn't shield her now. This scene would live forever online, a glaring stain on the legacy she once protected with snark and spotlight. And the cruel twist, Whoopi always saw herself as the truth teller.
Disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out of touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
Did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
Right.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever.
But when the truth finally walked in wearing a blazer and holding undeniable receipts, Whoopi had nothing left to offer. Clips from the showdown were everywhere, plastered with captions like "The day Whoopi got humbled" and "Charlie and Megyn didn't come to play." This wasn't just viral, it was a full-blown eruption. Talk radio exploded with coverage. Podcasts that never touched daytime TV were suddenly obsessed, dedicating whole episodes to dissecting the drama. "Is this the fall of The View?" one host asked, and no one was chuckling anymore. Meanwhile, Whoopi's silence dragged on, and that silence said everything. The woman famous for snappy comebacks, drawn-out pauses, and endless monologues now sat wordless. And somehow that silence roared louder than her fiercest speeches ever did. The next episode of The View tried to patch things up with a carefully worded apology, but it fell flat, like tossing a soggy napkin at a raging inferno. No one was convinced, and no one was ready to forget what they'd just seen in high definition. Charlie Kirk didn't mince words in his follow-ups. They tried to smear our students, they got caught, and now they're hiding. And the painful truth? He wasn't lying. Megyn Kelly didn't gloat, but she didn't back down either. She simply said, "You can't accuse others of ignorance while living in your own bubble. Eventually, someone's gonna pop it." And that was the real sting. Whoopi wasn't portrayed as the villain, she was revealed as outdated, disconnected, and completely unprepared. The takedown didn't need name-calling, it only needed the truth. Because in today's world, when the truth gets broadcast live and replayed endlessly, no applause button can undo the damage.
I don't want to say too much, but we're going to have a lot of fun at the Department of Education. We're going to have a lot of fun.
Can I tell you something? Like, I've had quite a few people contact me about that particular post. Like, I'm sure I have 1/100th of what you're getting, but people are contacting me about cabinet posts. I'm like, I got
look,
nothing.
I mean, yeah, I'm actually, after this conversation, heading to Mar-a-Lago for a week, and we have a lot to sift through, and if I could be helpful, I have asked. I want to be actively involved in all things education, as you can imagine.
Not even decades of training the audience to clap on command could save her this time. The damage was undeniable. Loyal fans began posting old and new clips side by side with captions like, "She's not the same," and "This isn't the Whoopi I looked up to." The foundation cracked and support drained faster than anyone expected. You could feel the momentum shift in real time. One minute, she was the unshakable queen of daytime talk, and the next, she sat blinking in disbelief, as if the empire had crumbled in seconds. But this wasn't sudden, it was years in the making. A slow buildup of unchecked arrogance, dismissive tones, and the dangerous idea that having a platform made her untouchable. That illusion shattered in a single brutal broadcast. By the next few episodes of The View, everything felt different. Whoopi's once commanding energy now came off hesitant, fragile, and worst of all, irrelevant. And the audience? They sensed it instantly. Every bold opinion she tried to offer landed with hesitation. It was clear she wasn't sure anymore was the room still hers. Or were they just letting her talk out of muscle memory? Even her co-host looked uneasy sitting beside her with forced smiles, like they were sharing a table with someone they no longer recognized as the leader. The tension was thick, and the change was real, because when a legacy starts to fall, it doesn't always come with fireworks. It sometimes fades with an awkward, lingering silence where thunderous applause once lived. The eyes that once admired her now looked on with doubt, even sympathy.